So, fellow citizens, why are we here today? What concerns do we share? Together, what do we hope to achieve? If we are to pull together, we must find a common cause that defines us. Because if we do not define ourselves, we will be defined by others in ways inaccurate and vulgar. It has been said that the reason grandparents and grandchildren get along so well is because they share a common enemy. To find what we share, let us look at what it means to be an American. Independence, freedom, rights. We hear and speak these words frequently, but what does it mean to be independent? What are we free from and free to do? Where do our rights come from? The answers should be clear in our minds. Independence and freedom are fraternal twins. To be independent means you are free from the control and aid of others. Someone who is independent is free to determine their own destiny and experience the consequences of their actions. You cannot be independent or free if you require the support and assistance of others. The college student is not independent or free of tyranny if they periodically require additional pizza money from the tyrants. Nearly 233 years ago, our forefathers declared their independence from tyranny. They understood that the price of this independence would be that they would have to shoulder the full responsibility of their freedom. And with only a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, they mutually pledged to each other their lives, their fortunes, their sacred honor. The Declaration of Independence is the first of the two greatest political documents ever conceived. Not only does it tell tyranny to take a hike, but as Thomas Jefferson noted, it is a clear expression of the American mind. Placed before everyone the common sense of the subject in terms plain and firm. The fundamental concept being that all men are endowed by their Creator with unalienable rights. Recognition of the existence of these rights allows us to declare our independence from the control of others and the freedom to enjoy the consequences of our actions, good or bad. From these rights, we may establish a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. The supremacy of the individual over the state seems a small point, easily missed. But plain and firm, it is the genesis of all that is uniquely American. Independence would not be possible if we depended on the government for our rights. It is the government that depends on us for its very existence. This is amplified by the Constitution, where the rules of governance are spelled out, but rights are not mentioned. The first 10 amendments to the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, do not establish any rights either. They specify critical things the government cannot do, what rights it cannot infringe or violate. Our rights are profound, but they are fragile. They are easy prey to those with power, so to protect our rights, we lend a portion of them to government. The founders drafted the Constitution to form the federal government. Article 1, Section 8 grants 17 specific powers to the Congress, no more. The 10th Amendment specifies that all powers not delegated to the federal government are reserved for the states or the people, emphasizing the need to restrict the growth of federal government. But as with all creations of man, the government is imperfect. It is a creature of the people and therefore shares our basic instincts to thrive and grow. In our effort to secure our rights, we have created a threat to those very rights. The government itself, the political class, seeks to expand its power, its influence, and swell its ranks at our expense. Our founders understood this danger and sought to limit it by binding the government with the chains of the Constitution. They knew that the price of freedom is eternal vigilance and struggle. This is not a struggle of Democrat against Republican, conservative against liberal, rich against poor. It is far larger than that. It is a struggle between the people and the political class for control of their destiny, their independence. The people are armed with a vote. The political class can enact laws and tax. Abuse of the legislative powers is rampant. Our government regularly operates outside the 17 limited powers vested by the Constitution. In so doing, they usurp the rights specifically reserved for the states and the people. The hand of power reaches past its prescribed limits into our boardrooms, our bedrooms, and into our very bodies. Our founders also knew that democracies fail when the populace is given the opportunity to vote themselves a share of the treasury. They provided in the Constitution that no tax shall be laid unless in proportion to population. Those that vote for a tax must be subject to that tax. But that wisdom has been ignored. In the early 20th century, the liberal progressive movement, the same fine folks that brought us prohibition and eugenics, pushed through the 16th Amendment, allowing the taxation of income from any source for any reason. They promised that this new tax on income would only apply to the few, the rich, and that 95% of Americans would enjoy the benefits but not be taxed. Now, 90 years later, how's that working out for you? The 16th Amendment opened up a whole new world to the political class. They could now use the power of taxation to selectively punish those out of favor and reward others for their support and their obedience. To administer this power, the Internal Revenue Service was created. The IRS has a singularly corrosive effect on the relationship between a citizen and their government. The IRS has made liars out of more otherwise honest Americans than golf and fishing combined. Around here, that's saying something. The tax code is impossible to comprehend. Its methods are medieval and grossly inefficient. For every $100 of tax collected, the people pay an additional $25 in just compliance cost. And another $15 goes uncollected and must be made up by those who do pay. Over 100,000 federal employees toil in the bowels of the IRS, with their only goal being the collection of your wealth that can then be used to pay their own wage, which will then be taxed. A sure way to break a man's spirit is to cause him to toil without purpose. For every dollar that is confiscated from the taxpayer, only 66 cents makes it into the Treasury. Add to this the fact that this abusive tax system has driven $11 trillion of U.S. wealth into offshore banks, and you will easily conclude that the IRS costs more than it's worth. Abolish the IRS? Impossible, you say. How would we fund our government? Well, we could follow the example of the 13th and 15th largest economies in the world. They operate their democratic governments just fine without an income tax. Where are these exotic places of such efficient governments? We know them as Texas and Florida. And it is no coincidence that these states' economies are among the best in the country, while states with the heaviest tax burdens, California and New Jersey, are among the worst. So, if this progressive tax is so